So good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Ladies Gaelic Football webinar series. And tonight we have Keeping in the Zone as an official. And that's the webinar we will be delivering tonight. I'm Claire Dowdall, the National Referee and Player Welfare and Development Officer for Ladies Football. And I'm delighted to have with me tonight Gary Owen McMahon. Gary Owen is one of our top national referees. He's had the privilege to be out there and referee an All-Ireland final day. And you can see that we photo of him shaking hands with the captains there. And he's a man who definitely knows about getting in the zone and keeping in the zone. So we're delighted to have Gary on board with us this evening and giving up our time. So do you want to say hello there, Gary Owen?
Thanks, Claire. Yeah, thanks, Claire. Thanks a million.
So, folks, what we're going to cover tonight is really some of the aims we have is we're going to try and understand what the zone is. So people talk about, as a referee, how can I get into that zone? So to clearly understand what actually do we mean by what the zone is, provide guidance on how to get into the zone, understand controlling the controllables is probably a saying you've often heard, but maybe not understand the full concept behind it, and explores referees' challenges for staying mentally alert during the game. So that's what we're going to get through this evening. And before we get going, just to see what we have with us tonight, we're going to start off with a wee poll. So the first question we're going to ask is during a game, can you block out interference from the outside? So often, always, or never. How are you regarding that? If there's interference from the outside, are you good at blocking it out? All the time, always, often, or never? You want to click on the wee answer. Just share the results with you there. So you can see from that, Gary on, 86% are saying, they often can do it, can block out interference, and only 14% saying always. What about you? Do you often find that you can block out interference?
I think a lot of it comes with experience, Claire. No, you just basically you can't control what's happening outside the pitch, what's being said in the stand, or what's going on in the sideline. Basically, if you're there as a referee, you're there to control what's happening on the pitch. So you need to block out everything else like that. But that comes down with experience, Claire. So I would say if you can control what's happening on the pitch, then the rest outside the pitch will maybe look after itself.
Very good point, Gary. So the next one we just have is, just before we get going, do you have a pre-match routine? Is that a yes or a no? So do you have a pre-match routine? Yes or no? And you can be honest, there's no right or wrong here. So we have 89% that do have a pre-match routine, and we have 11% that don't. So look, that's really good. It's actually a lot that do have it. So I'll ask you, Gary, have you a pre-match routine?
I do, Claire. But my pre-match routine would start from maybe sending the text out to my umpires maybe at the start of the previous week. So again, you're just basically preparing for the game maybe a week in advance. So you're lining up your umpires, then you're maybe closer to the time. You'd be obviously every couple of days you'd be maybe out doing a bit of, if you weren't doing a match, you'd be doing a bit of training. So you'd be just keeping that bit of fitness in the legs. You'd be obviously watching that you're well hydrated. You'd be watching obviously what you're eating, not overdoing things, that you're getting plenty of sleep. And then obviously closer to the game or the major match of the week, let's say, you would be then checking them with your full team. You'd be going through maybe different scenarios that might happen in the match. So that'd be a bit of you'd have your mental and probably physical preparation all ticked off by the night before the game, and then basically then you're really getting into the zone for the match then the following day. So there's a lot of wee boxes to be ticked from, let's say, the week when you get the text to, let's say, when you take the field on any given day. There's a lot of boxes to be ticked before you take the field on a big day.
There's definitely more to it than just like turning up on the day. And the more you go up, probably the more bits and pieces of mental preparation you would add to your routine, would you?
Oh, you have to look at it. It's the mindset, it's the focus, it's going through different things, different circumstances that might happen in a game. So you always just have to keep that little step ahead. So whatever scenario then happens on the day, that you're ready to deal with that when it happens.
Super. Hopefully we'll deal with some tips on that today. So the zone, when I was looking at this, the zone is simply a mental state of total involvement in the present moment. You're immersed in the performance. Being in the zone is a state of total involvement in a task without the mental weight or worry, doubt or fear about the outcome. So some people talk about this in being in a state of flow, that they're just so there that it's so natural to them. Be like a top sports person, like a top golfer, when they're in full stride, with their swing at the club, they actually feel like they are the club. They've all came to one. And it's probably the same when you're refereeing up there in the big days. And if you're getting into the zone, it's that total being present. Nothing else matters. The crowd doesn't matter. You're just watching the play, and you're so, you could nearly be your whistle. You're so in tune. And that's the zone. That's where you want to be and get involved in. The other big thing is controllable. And they're probably the two things we're going to talk about the most in the webinar is the zone and controllable. So if something is controllable, you're able to control or influence it. So I've often heard, and I've often said, and people have often said to me, Claire, what are you getting so worked up about or getting so worried? Control the controllables. And it's probably something that only in later years I've actually been able to grasp myself, what do they mean by that? So it is something incontrollable you're able to control or influence. So that's what controllable is, something you're able to influence. And that's probably really important as a referee, to be able to get that list and understand what it is. So what is the zone? The zone is a mind state, that's what I'm saying, that a referee is trying to achieve to perform at their peak. That's where they want to be, in that zone. Many referees who want to reach their maximum potential are always in search of methods to get into the zone. The zone is really not that complex or difficult to reach when the correct mental game strategies are implemented. It is virtually impossible to enter the zone state every time you referee a game. No one is perfect, but you can learn the mental strategies that will help you achieve it more often than not. So the zone is our mental state to help us to perform at our peak. So Gary, for you, what does being in the zone mean, or getting there?
It's basically what I would say is it's for your mind to be in a certain place that you can perform to the best of your ability on any given day. It's a lot of it is mindset, Claire. Your mind has to be in it. Like it might feel a bit of a cliche, but your mind has to be in the game. And when your mind is in the game, you will more than likely make the decision that you need to make on any given day. So when that mind is right, when you're focused, it's all about focus. When you're completely focused, it's making it much easier for you on the day to make the decision that you need to make. So getting in the zone, getting the mind right, getting the mindset right, and then when a decision needs to be made, you're in the right headspace to make it.
Because you're nearly doing it naturally then, Gary, if you've got yourself into that zone and into that flow, your decision comes so naturally to you, you would hope, in that instance.
Yeah, it's just, look, you'll throw in the ball and then the next thing you're looking at potentially maybe the next foul, or you're looking at the first score, or you're looking at a white ball, or you're looking at maybe a decision maybe that needs a card. There's always something, there's always a next play, there's always a next phase, there's always a next play in a game. So you're going from one phase to another. It's basically, you're breaking the game, look, now we have 4 quarters, you're breaking the game just down into little segments. So you're going from one segment, one phase, one play, one passes of play into the next. So basically it's just a continuation of that. And that's basically how the game is gone now. But you're taking each play as it comes and make the best decisions when it comes, or when it happens.
I like the way, it's quite evident that you won't always get into that zone. It's nearly impossible. But I think the bit that people don't think about is, there is mental strategies to help you and guide you. And I suppose that's trying to reach and help you make the right mental state of mind. And as you said, that starts for you in your preparation a week nearly leading up to the game. But there's some techniques that we said that there is out there that different people use, and it'll all depend on your own personality and your own mindset. So we have like the likes of our relaxation, taking a few moments out to gather your thoughts and refocus. So if something happens, you're able to have trigger words to refocus the head and keep it going again. Concentration, and you did say this, you said focus is such a big element of it. And making the game into smaller chunks. So it's not losing focus on the game and holding your concentration throughout. Visualization. So visualize how you deal with certain situations when they occur. You will then be armed with ideas on how to deal with them. So this is something I know that you would often do, Gary. I've heard this before, in terms of before a game, you would ring it on another national referee or a couple of national referees and say, you're visualizing if something happens. So do you want to maybe explain what you would do there in terms of that?
Well, you'd always be looking at, like there might be maybe an awkward movement, maybe in a game, or maybe a previous game where you might want to say, well, okay, whatever happened on that day, you want to make sure that doesn't happen again. So you just need to surround yourself, Claire, by good people. You need to surround yourself by, like, let's say your own team of umpires, and you need to keep in contact with them regular and communicate with them regular. It just doesn't happen on a match day and you just turn up and you communicate with the lads. We'd constantly be in communication, ringing them. You'd be saying, right, okay, if this happened, what would happen? We have WhatsApp calls together. I would deal with a lot of communication with, as you said, the other national referees. So everybody has life experiences. Everybody has match experiences that they can share with other referees. So it's all learning. Like every day is a school day. So you never stop learning. What happened, make one referee, you could learn from that and bring it into your own game. So it's all learning. But as I say, surround yourself with good people, be it your own officiating team or your colleagues that's on the panel or maybe on your club panel. But there's plenty of people out there, and especially the people in Croke Park as well, that are always able to assist whenever you need them as well. So it's good that way as well.
Yeah, I definitely think it's probably an area we probably don't mention up, but I know it's one that definitely happens a lot in terms of the visualization, where you would actually talk out scenarios. If this happened in a game, what would you do? Or if this rule happens, and I don't think, it means that if that happens in the game that you're going out to go, you nearly know the answer straight away, Gary, because you've rehearsed it. What do I do if this occurs? I speak to this person, or this is my decision, because you've rehearsed it and this is the rule that sanctions that, and this is how I deliver it. And it's being mentally prepared that you're in that space to do that. There's no panic because you've actually ran through if this happens, if that happens, from your own experience. So I just think it's a really, really good one to hit the nail on the head with. Your emotional control. So the focus at all times must be on the positive feelings. Example of these are confidence, determination, relax, and of course, above all, enjoyment. So that's such a really important bit to get your head right. And you said having that support around you. The attitudes will control a referee's behavior. If you think you can, you will. If you think you have to be the best, then you won't be. Be yourself. And, that's really important. Your own attitudes and your own personality coming through, and awareness, being aware of your strengths and development areas. Work on the developments that you need to. Work on your weaknesses. That'll make you better, as long as you know when you have a good team around you. Affirmations. It is good to have affirmations that deflect pressure. Muhammad Ali said, I am the greatest. He said this because he believed it. This may not be a usual statement for referees, but other positive affirmations could be, I never let emotions affect my officiating, or I always spot the flash points. These are positive and will give you confidence. And it's probably something we don't do enough of. We don't do enough of that affirmations of saying, I'm being appointed. Never have I rang a referee after they've been appointed an All-Ireland final or a Leinster final or even a club final and said to them, congratulations. If they went, Claire, I've been appointed this because I think I've been refereeing really well this year, they usually say, oh, thank you very much. I'm just so pleased. I think it could be a culture thing. We're afraid to have these affirmations to say, I'm here because I'm doing the best job. I don't let my emotions affect me. I'm positive, I'm confident, I'm spotting the mistakes before they arise. I've learned how to read the game. And it's the strong mindset. So I think it's really important that we do have a couple of affirmations. The more you said, the more it could possibly come true in and around for you. So the zone. So if the zone is that simple, why can't referees achieve this mindset every time they cross the white line? It's something we would all love to do, I think, in every aspect. Some officials are prevented from entering the zone as they overcome by huge distractions, such as fear of failure and worry. The top referees know how to harness this power of the zone by using thoughts and images to trigger a mindset to enter the zone. So they actually realised, if you've got to the level that you're a top referee, you've realised you've come out of that zone, or you've dropped concentration and you're able to get yourself back in. Entering the zone may sound like Zen-like and mysterious, but actually achieving this level of investment is very simple. When your mind fully connects with achieving a goal, such as serving and delivering the perfect game, attention is absorbed into the present, the immediate only. Your mind is focused solely upon the thoughts and images that help you execute that. With direct focus, fear or failure, worry, doubt, or indecision, and often mental traps are forbidden from entering your conscious mind. In this state of concentration, mental distraction struggles to compete for your attention, but lose the battle. So really what we're saying there through that all is it is hard to keep in the zone all the time, but the better we get at practicing that there is a mental side of our refereeing and realizing when you've slipped out of the zone and having set trigger words or having an umpire say to you, look, Gary, on, I think you lost concentration in the last 5 minutes or the first half. Even somebody saying that in your team can help you get back out the second half and get back in there, because you want to be so in the zone that you're moving on to the next thing. And the biggest reason that most people slip out of the zone is actually fear of failure, of actually worrying about maybe somebody shouted something in from the crowd or an incident's happened and you've went, I made the wrong decision, and the next minute your head went all over the place. But it's that fear that comes in and takes over the mind and actually stops the referee from getting into their own zone. So I love this. Control the controllables. It's something I've always found really relevant, and it's a sports psychologist mantra. When working with people in sport, they would always use that. If you can control the controllables, trust me, you're going to get better. But what does this mean as a referee? As a referee, this means that we need to focus on what we can control during our game. So what areas of the match should be given most of our attention to? Officials often get into trouble when focusing on incidents that are outside of their direct control. And when I speak to referees and I speak to them weekly and monthly at various levels, they'll always say, but what happens if, what do you find the most distraction? Somebody shouting in from me from the crowd. That's the most common one. All managers shouted at me, or a parent or a spectator. And I think this is why I love this element around refereeing, because Gary Owen's shouting at me if I'm refereeing is out of my control. I can't control that. Gary Owen's going to do it anyway. So I have to learn, if I want to be the best referee possible, that when Gary Owen shouts at me, how do I react? And I think that's the base we have to get to in terms of refereeing. So when out in the middle, sometimes you give more attention than you should to the uncontrollables. We're all human, so sometimes we slip into that trap that we're worried about the uncontrollables because we haven't really thought about what do I control and what can't I control. So poor technical decisions made by players, weather conditions, difficult pitch conditions, as long as the surface and immediate areas around remain safe, obviously, it's in your control to stop at them. Players' conduct towards each other, you can't, that you might go, God, did you see the look she gave her or what she said to her? You're worried about that instead of the game. Spectators, considering safety and spirit of all the games at all. However, you should focus on what you can control, such as your own performance, your mindset, what your attention is on, team communication, and the ability to rebound from mistakes. So my biggest thing is, if you see the circle say in the presentation, things that matter should be in one box, things you can control, and your focus, that's the center. So Gary, I don't know what you think about controlling the controllables in that aspect of it.
I think just you mentioned there at the very end is about your ability to rebound from mistakes. It's look, if you do, we all make mistakes, but if you do make a mistake in the game, especially for the newer referees coming through, if you do make a mistake, everybody makes mistakes, but it's how you react to it. It's you reset, you focus the mind again, and you start again, and you go again. And as I mentioned maybe 5 minutes ago, next phase of play, and it's how you react to that. It's and then again with all the breaks, with the quarters, with the water breaks, with half time, you get a chance to talk to your team, and you get a chance then to go again. There's always another phase. There's always another moment in a game where it's not about correcting the mistake, but it's about not making the same mistake again and making sure that you can be the best that you can be on any match day.
And that's controlling your own mindset, Gary on, you know.
Sorry?
That's controlling your own mindset. That's very much having the ability to control your own mindset.
Oh yeah. Yeah, look at you just look at it. Yeah, it's look at there's nobody not going to make a mistake on any given day, be it the players or be it the referees, but it's how you reapply yourself, how you go again, and how you then, let's say, what happens then after you make a mistake, how you react to it, how you focus the mind, and again just retune that mindset again and go again. Yeah.
So we're going to just throw you in here for a second. What things can knock you out of a zone during a game? So we've told you about the zone and what you can control and what you can't control, and it's going to bring us on to the next slide. So just in our chat box, if anybody has any things that they would like to share, and we'll keep an eye on it. So what type of thing knocks you out of your zone during a game? So you're out there refereeing and really puts you off. Does anybody want to share? So yeah, comments from the sideline. Bad injury. I didn't even think of that, Caroline. Yeah, completely. Nah, yeah, injury to a player. Long stoppages. Gary, what about that for you? Have you ever had that where an injury's held up one of your games and it's just completely knocked you for six?
Oh yeah, well listen, look at it's I wouldn't say it's regular now, but you might have an injury. It could be a serious injury. It could be look at a little injury, but it's look at, especially with head injuries now, where it's coming into the game as well. You just have to, again, you're there, you're kind of maybe looking at a player being treated, and you're kind of thinking, right, there's a bit of a delay. There's a moment where what actually can you do here, or what do you do next? So again, you just have to settle yourself. Just have to get yourself back into that mindset again. That first and foremost is the player is all right. That if she's able to carry on, great. If she's not, well, listen, that she's getting the best treatment that she can, and then you're either throwing that ball in again, or you're going with a free kick, whatever the case may be, and carry on with the game again. But the long and the short of it is that the player's all right, and again, start again yourself and on to the next phase of the game.
I'm loving some of these. So have you ever had an occasion, Gary, on maybe where you've slipped or fell into a player or anything either?
No, I don't think so. No,
you're too late in your feet.
not yet, I know.
But I can see how that would really distract you too. That could really put you off. You know, even that embarrassment, maybe the crowd cheer, you've maybe slipped in the wet ground, or and again, that's another thing. You have to try and be mentally strong and reset your game and go, right, okay, if I fall, I'm going to get back up and run on to the next.
You've no other option but just to go again, yeah. But no, thank God, not that I know of anyway.
And I'm sure you've had this before because we live in Ireland. When a sudden change of weather condition comes in and you know it turns into torrential rain or downpour, you know, has that ever happened to you? And maybe you've went, gosh, your mind slipped away from the focus of the game.
Well, you'd always have to look at we're entitled to call if a pitch is playable or whether it's not playable. So you'd always, again, it's going back to, is a playing surface, is it the best that it could be in order for, you know, for that, let's say for the welfare of players. If it's not safe for the players, the match can't be played on it. So no, you would always call that if you deem it bad enough so that the game couldn't go ahead. More times than not, games will always go ahead, but sometimes you do have to make that call as somebody that's in responsibility. If the pitch isn't playable, if you deem the pitch not safe enough to play on, well, you can't let that game go ahead, because at the end of the day, the buck stops with you as the fella in charge of the game. So if you don't think it's playable, Claire, you can't let the game go ahead.
And there's the last one just here on it all, Gary, on is, have you ever been knocked out of, say, the referee and so on, or never really been put off by maybe player questioning your decision? Or
you do listen to players, managers, spectators. You know, there's at the end of the day, there's two sides of every story. Like there's some one team is going to be happy with you, one team is going to be, you know, they're not going to be happy with maybe whatever decisions you make. But at the end of the day, players are entitled to be explained a decision. They're entitled, if they ask a question in a firm, in a mannerly sort of a way, I would have no problem communicating back so that they can learn. It's learning for them as well, and it's learning for their teammates, and it's learning for the management as to why I give my decision. So that's what it's all about. It's all about learning. It's about officials are learning, every day as much as the players are, and that's what it boils down to. If somebody asks you a question in a certain way, they're very much entitled to be answered as to why that free was given against them, whatever the case may be on the day. Yeah.
And do you think, in terms of you communicating and answering back, do you think that helps you reset back into that refereeing zone again, instead of just ignoring it? The fact that you answer, whatever queries there are, and it helps you move right back on to the next phase of play?
It's absolutely. I think a lot of it's got to do with your actually overall game control. It's how confident you are on the day. If you're there and you're able to, obviously answer as to why the free was given, what personal foul was it for, what technical foul was it for, whatever the case may be. But it's all about confidence. But you have to be fair with everybody, regardless of what team they're on. Make the best decision you feel on the day or at whatever moment in the game. And again, yeah, as you mentioned, if a player asks you what was the foul for, that you're there, your confidence, your head is in the zone, you're in the game, and you're well able to and positioned to explain what the free was given for.
Great stuff. So spear control, and this is something, and I'll laugh and I'll ask you, maybe you've never done it before, but have you ever sat down, Gary, and wrote down a list of things that you possibly are in your control and outside of your control in terms of refereeing or any aspect?
Well, I would have a little book now and again. I would write into it. Maybe something happened, or if there was maybe some scenario happened, and you might maybe review it. Maybe I wouldn't say weekly now, but you might, if there was something that would stick out, and you were thinking, okay, right. But yeah, you would review it now and again. And again, as I mentioned at the start, different phone calls of what other colleagues might happen in their games as well. But you can, you never stop learning, Claire. So yeah, I would write in. Look, I wouldn't have a book full of stuff, but you would be writing in little bits and pieces that might happen in the game. I wouldn't say bizarre incidents, but something that, if it does happen again, that you've dealt with it before. And if it ever arises again, it's just back to this mental preparation that we mentioned at the start, that if it does happen again, you're able to deal with it when it does happen again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, look, I would say, if we were to sit down and ask people, how much do you think your mind affects your performance? And that's whether you're playing or whether you're refereeing. And I said, do you think it's 10%, 50%, 70%, 80%, 100%? I'd say most people would say, look, my mind it affects your performance about 70, 80%, depending on the individual. But if I ask, how much training do you do to ensure your mind's right for a game? Most people come back and say, no, nothing, or maybe some people do 10%, or some people do a bit of reflecting. So I think it's just really important that we're thinking, getting into that zone is really important, and we need to do more of it. And I think this is a really easy concept. This is the spear of control. So you can see it. Things that are in the core, in the center, are things that are in your total control. And then there's things in the outer circle that are of some control. And then there's things in the wider circle to you, which you have no control over. You literally have no control over it, no matter what happens. And to me, they're the things you have to try and let go of, because if you thought back to how could I have changed that, you couldn't have changed it, because you have no control over it. So it's understanding what they are so that we don't affect us when we're on the pitch. And things that are inside your control are definitely your mindset, and that's how you prepare. Even the likes of your attire. Yeah, I'm bringing toolkits with me. I'm bringing different jerseys. I'm bringing socks to sleep well the night before. All the things you talked about, Gary, they're all within your control, and that's what you should be setting your stall out. Look, I'm ready for this game because I have did A, B, and C, and I'm completely happy. Things that are in some of your control are your thoughts, my thought process, clarifying rules, routine. They're all things that you can control. How do I clarify rules? How do I speak to people? How my routine is, how I like to eat, or, if somebody throws you a curveball on that, how can you adjust? They're in your control, or how you deal with something. So things that you have no control over is the weather, the change of the weather, the pitch that you're at. Abusive mentors. If somebody has come out and had a bad day as a mentor and decide to blame everything on the referee or the players, get on your back, they're things that you have no control over. You have no control over a mentor shouting at you, steps, even though the players only took 2 steps. That's something you can't control. You have no control over a mentor shouting to you about a rule and they're completely wrong and you're right. They're outside, they're other people's behavior. And there are things I believe when we're looking at our sphere of control that we have to let go. We should be more focused on looking at what's inside our control. And if something happens, so what we should be focused on instead of, look, if a mentor is going to shout at me regarding A, B, and C, how I'm going to act is this. And if you can dull down a fence in a game like that, you're going to be so much more easier on it. So what is your sphere of control? And that's basically what I was talking about there. Have awareness of things inside and outside your sphere of control. And that's what I really want you to start thinking about tonight, having an awareness of actually what can I control in a game and what can't I? And if you've never done it before, maybe sit down and write a list of things that you actually can control and things you can't. And it might make you realize how you can plan for them. You need to be aware how you will respond differently to those situations and how you can make sure you do it in a more effective way. So how you respond to maybe the abuse in a more effective way. How do you respond to players questioning your decision? How you do anything about these situations and how you can change the way you think about those moments. By concentrating on what is in your sphere of control, you're giving attention to the important performance points for you to referee most effectively. By concentrating on you, you become better. Becoming self-aware of the controllable versus the uncontrollable, what I can control, what I can't. Create a what-if plan. This can help prepare you for any obstacles or challenges you may encounter in the ever-changing, fast-paced, unpredictable environment of refereeing. Address the things you really fear in the game. Just list them all. Then address them one by one, asking yourself, is it controllable or not? And if it happens, I will. And I'm telling you guys, if we can get more people doing this, you're going to enjoy your refereeing even more. If you have a what-if plan, what happens if this happens? How can I address this? And look, this is in my control. This is not in my control. Concentration cues. Highlight and develop a list of correct cues you should be focusing on. And when on and off the ball, use trigger words or short phrases to reinforce specific concentration cues for a task, i.e. noting, oh, I need to note that can remind you next game, I need to make a note in that. Or positioning, you might say to yourself, I need to get back into positioning, whatever it is you need to improve on. If you have the short cue, but maybe an umpire or a lines person to remind you of, keep you back in that focus, back in that sphere of control, all the things in and around your control. So how to focus on the controllables. Reframe your perspective on the uncontrollables when you're refereeing by choosing to view the event as short-term and part of 10-minute blocks in a 60-minute game, and move on to the next blocks. When you try to control situations outside of your direct control, tension and frustration builds. So Gary Owens actually mentioned this a couple of times, that he referees now in 4 quarters, and that's really important. That's within his control. He goes right up to this, and I get a break and I reset and I go again. In reality, the only things you control are your reactions, and that's important. That is what you can control, and your response to challenging situations during games. You can focus on the difficulties of a situation, or you can accept what is beyond your control and focus on the things you can do to maintain a good level of match control in games. So you're not letting it get on top of you. You're controlling what you can do to keep the game running. We're all going to have challenges. When you expend mental energy on an uncontrollable situation, you have to refocus, such as when you dwell on dissent from spectators. Consider the fact that when you start to give attention to something outside of your sphere of control, you lose focus of what is in it. When you do refocus on the next phase of play, make sure you're 100% focused on the process you use when you referee, and any error you may have made during a previous part of the game is gone. How you handle the challenges that you'll face during a game is a matter of focus. You can choose to focus on the situation, or you can choose to focus on how you respond to that incident. And that's what I would love to get more into the mindset of. We're all going to make mistakes, everybody, but it's how you react to the mistake and how you refocus is what's going to make you better each week in, week out. So Gary, I don't know if you have anything coming in and around controlling the controllables in and around that area.
Yeah, we did mention earlier on, Claire, it's look at whenever a mistake is made, it's just how you react. It's basically how you react to it. You don't make the same mistake again. You refocus the mind, you get the mindset ready again, and you just go again. Like, there's always another opportunity in the game where you get the chance to redeem yourself, to improve in the game. And it's just one moment of play, one phase of play after the other, and that's just what makes the game as enjoyable as it is. There's always another opportunity, there's always another decision, there's always another score, there's always another you know what I mean, there's always something else. There's always, you're going from one decision to the next, another decision, the next decision, and that's just the way, that's the beauty of the game.
Yeah, no, it really is. I have a couple of questions, but I'll actually ask them at the end. Carry on, we'll keep on going. There's an area that you talk about in your mind going to the unconscious to conscious, and you, if you're doing it right, you don't even realize that you're doing it. So closing out a strong officiating performance is not the easiest task in the world, but what causes a referee to be knocked out of their zone? What causes us to get kicked out of that zone that we've been in? The reason officials go from good to bad is that their refereeing style moves from unconscious to conscious. When you're officiating at your peak, you're thinking, analysing, or evaluating the game. You're not doing any of that. You're immersed in what you're doing. So that's your unconscious. You're actually refereeing and you're in the moment. You're not even thinking of anything else or your performance. You're just there. You're in that next play, that next run, that next free. That is in the unconscious realm. Your refereeing seems effortless. You have a sense of calm while officiating, and your focus is laser-like. When refereeing in the zone, solutions to challenging situations come easily into your mind. In the unconscious realm, you're simply taking each decision as it comes, and you're not worrying about the next challenge. You're in the moment. When you switch over to the conscious realm, everything changes. You start overthinking each decision and your match control, overanalyzing how to manage each challenge and evaluating how you're officiating. You've now switched into thinking, oh, what's he going to say when I blow this whistle? I'm going to have him shouting at you again. That's when things start losing your control. You've actually switched from the unconscious to doing everything naturally, to really overthinking elements of it. How to keep an unconscious mindset. When you start to overthink your refereeing style or consider the mark you may receive, you have to quickly refocus on the next half of the next incident. So it's when you've let your mind drift on with other elements of it instead of staying in the zone, in the moment, in them there and now. Performance marks are nothing more than a distraction to refereeing. Continue to officiate without prejudice and not to actively avoid making mistakes or error. So if you, for instance, think there's an assessor there or somebody there, you might change how it is. And you're so focused on, even for the likes of now, we have TV cameras at so many games, or you might be doing a county final and everybody's streaming games. If you get so much focused on TV cameras or what will I do if this incident happens, oh, I'll have to change this, your refereeing will change because you've actually come out of that zone. You're thinking about things you can't control, like, oh, will they show that back in a highlight? What if the TV camera shows up this? You've actually stopped thinking about what's important, which is the decision in front of you, and you're thinking of other aspects outside of your control, and that's when you switch out of that zone. So a lot of it is self-control, and you have to be so good at it. And self-control is the ability to perform well under a variety of stress-producing circumstances. And I think that's referees in a nutshell. You know, they're having to do that all the time. Self-control requires the intelligence to manage yourself and those around you in emotionally charged situations. And I think that's refereeing. You know, you're sitting there trying to be as fair as possible. The players on the pitch, both sets are reacting. The managements are reacting. Spectators are reacting. They're only seeing it through their eyes. You're seeing it through a real fair eyes. And you know, you're trying to do it as good a job as possible. You can't control what happens in games in certain circumstances, but you can choose how you will react. Self-control is based upon the relationship between thoughts and emotions. We know that our state of mind influences our emotions, which in turn energizes our performance. It is important that as a referee, you keep your emotions in control during the game, no matter what the situation is. The greatest dangers to official self-control are the internal and external distractions that can destroy concentration and trigger negative thoughts. Officiating is the process of reading and reacting, with officials reading the ever-changing flow of the game, choosing to execute the correct response. Successful officials excel at both reading the game and knowing how to ignore distractions, for both participants and spectators. And that last line is probably the most important. Once you get the balance of that, being able to manage the game and know when to stop and take control and know when to let things go, it'll be in a much easier state of flow for yourself. Some tips to improve our self-control. So to improve performance by controlling emotions, we need to change our mindset. So again, all about your mindset, awareness, analyze when loss of control occurred in the past. So if you know you've lost control or lost concentration in the past, why did it happen? When did it happen? And let's try and stop it from happening in the next game. Understanding, realize what you're thinking changed and how it caused an emotional imbalance. Differences, remember examples of when you kept control and lost control in similar circumstances. What were the difference in your attitude, your emotions, and your behavior? Problem, try to find the problem, i.e., is it a sense of failure? Is it a distraction? What is the distraction? Belief, raise the expectations you have of yourself, include self-control as one of your virtues. Look, I am good at self-control. I believe in myself. I'm really good at this. Don't be afraid to say you are. Reinforcement, behavior change is accelerated by reinforcement. So reward good behavior. So if you've set out a goal and you're making it, and you're getting the feedback to say, yeah, you're getting better on that specific goal, make sure that you're rewarding that and you're saying, yeah, I'm proud of myself. I really wanted to focus on that this year and look, it's working out for me. Techniques, build a series of behavior techniques for maintaining calm and self-control, how you will react to pressure. So how will you react to somebody screaming on the line to you? Planning, achieve your goals by following a planned program. Progress, improvement comes in a series of up and downs, so be patient. It isn't a straight line, nothing in life usually is. There's up and downs the whole way through it. And setbacks, accept that there's going to be setbacks. They will occur from time to time. Be tolerant, learn from them. They'll make you mentally stronger in the long run. And please remember, review and recall what you're doing in order to grow and improve. So review and look at it. And if you do that, you will improve as you come along. Gary, have you any tips that you use regarding self-control?
No, I think a lot of it is, we'll go back to the same thing again. It's just about all just getting the head right. It's all about the mentally preparing for a game. But a lot of it, Claire, is just match experience, match practice. Just learning from different challenges, different things that might have happened in games, and just learning from from those things and bringing them forward maybe into the next game. It's just it's kind of life experience, match experience, what games you've refereed, what maybe didn't go well maybe on one day, and just kind of having that at the back of your mind that if it was to happen again, that you're ready to deal with it maybe when it happens again. But it's just all experience really, isn't it? It's every day you go out, is a learning day on the field and off it, so it's just it's all game experience really, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. The more you learn, and sometimes these setbacks, you learn more from them than you would anything else. That they really help you focus on that. But I think it's about taking the time and getting what's right for you mentally and helping you really focus on that. So I'm going to involve you again. Just I feel like I've been talking for a while. So again, just in our wee chat box, you've made a decision in the first half of a match, which at the time you believe was correct. It has caused a lot of controversy and has caused the crowd and team management to turn on you. The atmosphere at the match has changed. This has caused you to reflect at halftime. And upon reflection, you feel your decision was wrong. How do you react? And I'm going to ask Gary on to come in on that after we have a few comments in the chat box and let him break it down. It's going to be more beneficial coming from him than me. So how would you react if you want to share in the chat box? 1 or 2 words even. That's happened to you. I'm sure it's happened to some of us before. So Gio, how would you react to that?
Well, the thing about it is, it's in the past, Claire, and there's nothing you can do about it. The decision was made. Look, as it says in the question, at the time you felt the decision you made was correct. again, when you go back in and you talk to your team of officials, maybe it was your umpires, was it your lines person, say, you know what, actually that decision was wrong. You got it wrong. So you have to park it. You have to park it, learn and move on, and get back out then for the second half and throw that ball in and go again. You can't look at the no point in dealing in the past. You have to, if you made a mistake, right, okay, hold your hand up and say you got it wrong. That's what the people that's there with you on the day, your team of officials, as I said at the start, surround yourself with good people. And as I say, you need to learn from that. And again, there's always another play, there's always another phase in the game where you can move on and redeem yourself. But again, there's no point in overanalyzing, overthinking things. If it's wrong, it's wrong. If it was right, it's right. But you have to go on to the next play, the next moment, or the next phase in the game. But you have to move on to the next one.
And that's a lot of the feedback coming in. Put it behind you, focus on the second half, and then a post-match, learn from it for the next game. It's only a mistake if you make it twice. Accept, file, and move on. Keep making the right calls for the remainder of the game. 2 wrongs don't make a right. And I think that's basically what you're saying there. You have to leave it behind you, and you can look at it obviously after a game, and deal with it then after the game to try and make sure you don't make the same mistake in the next day out. But changing anything doesn't help, and you having to ask yourself, you know, how does this affect your second half performance? You should, and your focus, you should go out and refocus, reset, and don't make any changes. Keep moving the way you are. You put it down to experience and move on. Do you overcompensate with the team you ruled against and make up for your error? You never do that. Aaron got it right in the head when he said 2 rights don't make a wrong. You definitely don't do that. You keep refereeing the rule and you realize, look, I made a mistake, but by making another one, you're just going to spiral out of control. Do you lose confidence and focus over analysing the area? I'm sure a lot of referees do that, you know, but it comes back to what can you control? You know, it's going to be natural that maybe you lose a bit of confidence and you might start to keep on over analysing it, but you have to get into the mindset that it's parked and it's behind you. And what can you control? And I'm going to bring it back to that. It's what can you control? You can control the second half of the game. So it's about getting out there and controlling it and being in charge again. The stronger referees have to put it to one side and think about the next decision, because there's a snowball effect. If you're not concentrating 100%, the danger is you get the next one wrong and suddenly you panic. 2 wrong decisions can easily turn into 3, then 4, then 5. Then the game gets away from you. You must learn to reset your mind and move on. It's as easy as that. You pass it and you move on. So facing challenges, it brings us very much into this element of it. Hard times stimulate growth in a way that good times don't. Facing challenges and navigating one's way through them build resilient capacity. Knowing that one can overcome obstacles, learn from struggles, and benefit from mistakes lay a solid foundation for success in later life. And I completely believe that. And my biggest thing that I can point to you is around challenges are face them head on, have a plan how you're going to deal with them, and learn from it. Most importantly, this is the bit sometimes we forget, learn from the challenge and move on. If you can do that, that challenge is going to make you stronger. It really is. You know, I don't know, Guyon, have you ever faced a challenge regarding refereeing and you feel like it's made you better from it?
Look, there's every game is going to throw up a challenge. You know, it might be a decision maybe where you're not sure. It might be, as you see yourself, it might be an injury. There could be a bit maybe coming in from the sideline. It might be a small challenge, it might be a big challenge, but it's how you deal with it. But as I say, if you're confident, if your head's in the game, if your mind's in the game, if you're totally in the game, you'll be able to deal with whatever is being thrown at you. So again, it's going back to this, that you're mentally right, you're physically right, and whenever a challenge or something like that does come or does occur during a game, that you're in the right headspace to deal with whatever the correct decision should be at the time.
Yeah, I really love this. I think it's so relevant to a referee. Hard times stimulate growth in a way that good times don't. You know, the learning and coming over a challenge will stick with you forever. You know, going through 10 games and nothing ever challenges you, trust me, you aren't learning and you aren't getting better. but having the right mindset to go, look, this came and I dealt with it, and you know what, I dealt pretty well with it, or you know what, I didn't deal pretty well with it, but the next time it comes, this is what I'm going to do. Don't underestimate them. Don't underestimate the learning they have and the growth that they have, and how important they are for you. So facing challenges, how you've prepared for the match. So you have to realize that, again, go back to the mindset, how you react to different difficult situations encountered in a match will wonder what way you deal with it, how you assert yourself, how you maintain confidence levels, how you respond to criticisms, and how you reflect on performances, and how you switch off after games. These are all ways that you will react to challenges. You know, even that, how you switch off after games. Look, we all know the social media presence that we have now, and it's very easy for people to call out referees on Twitter or Facebook nameless. And you know, as a referee, you have to be able to go, you know, that challenge has happened to me, how can I switch off? Turn the phone off, don't look at it. You know, you have to have ways to relax, go to the cinema, you know, completely take yourself away for a walk for an hour. Everybody's going to have their own ways to process and deal with challenges as well, and processes of reflecting after performances, and that's fine, that's okay to have your own way. So keep them motivated after a challenge, and this can always be a hard one. You can have an incident that happens to you and you want to walk away and never come back, and it can be really, really hard to get back up out there and to go out and put the whistle in your mouth again. So regularly review your goals and progress. Seeing progress is a great motivator in itself, and also improves your self-esteem and confidence in the job, and you can do when officiating. So actually having goals and reviewing them can keep you really motivated to go, yes, I did have a bit of a challenge or a bit of a rough patch, but look, I actually have got better. Always continue to set new goals that are achievable. Think about what you want to achieve by your next game, next half of the season, or next season altogether. Tackle one goal at a time so you don't feel overwhelmed. Keep up the momentum. It takes up to 3 months to develop a new habit. You will have many training match day opportunities to implement these fundamentals in that time. So keep up momentum, and routine helps it feel more automatic over time. So that's really important. It can take up to 3 months to develop a new habit. So if you're going to say, I'm going to practice my noting in club games and I'm going to use this system, and after one day you go out, you stop it, you're never going to get better at noting in that way, or playing the advantage rule or whatever it is. You have to make it a habit, so it then becomes your referee. And actually, this is how I note and I communicate at one note and I move on as quickly as possible. They're just small examples of habits that you have to build into your refereeing. It's also like if you wanted to do some reflection after a game, you have to build that in. You have to go, after every game, I'm going to sit down for 10 minutes and write down 2 things I did well today and 2 things I need to improve, and have it in a book. And by the end of the year, you're going to go, wow, but it becomes a habit to help you. Anything in regarding your mindset, or anything regarding refereeing or sport, it becomes a habit as long as you keep practicing. Surround yourself with positive people, positive colleagues, friends, and family, and enhance your positive self-talk. So look, that's really important. And I think we've mentioned that having good people around you several times can really help you move around and keep you on the right path. You may not be able to control every situation and its outcome, but you can control your attitude and how you deal with it. And that's really important to me as a take-home message coming home tonight. So what I want you to leave here with, and then I'll put Gary on over in case he has any other ones. Our take-home notes from me are: have a routine for preparing, not just physically, but definitely mentally. Mistakes happen. Please accept them, reflect on them, and move forward. Don't dwell. Do not dwell. Figure out a few trigger words that will help you concentrate. Control the controllables. So work out what are the things inside your control as a referee and focus on them. That'll make you so much better. Learn how to get into the zone and learn what knocks you out of the zone. Whatever knocks you out of the zone, you have to try and overcome that to get back in. And most importantly, challenges are a learning opportunity if you're willing to learn. So thanks for joining us, folks. And I'm going to ask Gary on, is there any thoughts to finish on? And if you have any questions, we will answer them. So Gary on, over to you for some final thoughts.
I think, Claire, you're well covered now at this stage. We'll just be interested to see what the participants, is there any questions there they want to throw up? No, but I think you fairly cover everything. I'm happy enough with that, yeah.
Good man, thank you, Gary on. We did have one in here, Gary on, earlier. I'm just going to get it up now and see if there's any more that come in. What can be done, do you feel, to support referees where there are mentors or certain teams are constantly abusing referees?
Well, you'd have to see what level of abuse is it? Is it bad language? Is it directed at you? Is it just basically maybe dissenting, maybe with a decision? But be it men's, be it women's, like there's a system there, there's a code system, and there's different disciplinary systems involved with the men's. For the ladies, there's a code system where anybody that does direct abuse at a match official is well and truly dealt with. So there is a system there where if there's anything serious, it is definitely dealt with. But if it's something that's just maybe dissent or maybe an odd bit of bad language that you think you can control yourself, Claire, deal with it on the day. Just nip it in the bud early. And as I say, anything outside of that, listen, you can order anybody you want off the field if the abuse is getting too serious that you can't tolerate it, or if another match official can't tolerate it, or basically maybe if it's directed at players either. But you can't have that. If it's a constant rate of abuse, that can't be happening in the game, and there's no place for that in the game. So as I say, it'll all depend on the level of abuse. Is it just some simple dissent? Is it arguing with maybe why a decision was given? But if it was anything more serious with that, you deal with it on the spot, and obviously get through CODA and report it accordingly in the match report when the game is finished. But no, you can't be tolerating anything like that. There's no place for that in the game. You have to stamp that out.
Stamp it out and record it, and make sure referees are encouraged to report more than anything. Gary on, there's another question in here. It says, Gary on, what has been your experience of something that has distracted you the most?
Distracted me the most, I suppose maybe some maybe players playing the game maybe actually don't know the rules, or the managers maybe the knowledge of the rules. I think is probably the main one, Claire, that there's players even playing that don't know the rules. There's managers obviously don't know. There's coaches don't know the rules. It's just maybe that everybody, all stakeholders within the game, might have a better knowledge of the rules, and people maybe asking maybe what a decision was given for. Just you get some strange questions in the game, but it's how you react, how you answer them. I would say if everybody could improve on the knowledge of the rules, it would definitely make the referee's job a hell of a lot easier. Yeah.
I agree. It can be very distracting because they seem so like frustrated, and it's completely a rule, and you're distracted because you're going, that is a rule, like, why are they getting so annoyed? But it's because of a lack of knowledge out there in and around it. So yeah, thank you very much. Folks, there doesn't seem to be any more questions, so we're just past our hour mark there, and I just want to thank Gary on very much. It was brilliant to have him on here tonight sharing his knowledge, and thank you all. Hopefully you've learned something.
Fair, yeah, thank you.
Enjoyed it, and we'll see you all soon. So thanks very much and have a lovely evening.
Perfect. Thanks a million. Thanks.